What's the procedure when you got a gun to your head, Frankie? If you've never had a gun to your head, you don't get to tell an abuse survivor how long it should have took them to leave. If you've never had a fist to your face, you don't get to tell an abuse survivor how long it should have took them to leave. If you've never had death threats by somebody that's right in front of your face, holding a loaded gun, you don't get to tell an abuse survivor how long it should take them to leave. You also don't get to tell them how long it should take them to get over it. You also don't get to tell them how long it should take them to stop thinking about it. You also don't tell them how they should grieve through it. You also don't get the right to tell them that their life isn't really as hard as they think that it is. If you've never had to deal with it, that means you don't have the mental torment from it. And if you don't have the mental torment from it, how could you possibly know how long it should take me to get over what happened to me? How could you possibly know whether or not I've forgiven the person just because I still talk about it? How many times do you keep bringing up what your childhood friend did to you in elementary? How many times do you keep bringing up the way your mom or daddy used to talk to you? How many times do you keep bringing up that one friend that stole something from you? Or that boyfriend who kept cheating on you? Okay, so you can bring those things up because it's not vulgar, because it's not abusive, because it's not a trigger. But somebody who went through daily abuse, mental, physical, sexual, financial, isn't allowed to continue to talk about those things every time it pops up in their head because it offends you, because it makes you uncomfortable, because they should be over it already. If you've always had help with your children, if you've always felt safe, if you've always had a voice, you don't get to tell somebody who doesn't have that same story how they should deal with their life. You can be there as assistance, like mental assistance, as physical assistance, as a ear for them to, talk to, a shoulder for them to lean on. You can be there for that. But the process that God has to take them through, you don't get to dictate how that should go, how long it should take, or how they should be affected by it. People actually start to heal from things once they start to talk about it. The main reason why so many people continue to repeat the same abuse cycles is because they never talk about what happened to them, not in depth. They might say, oh yeah, he hit me before. But in depth, going deeply into what happened, not a lot of people do that. Or they just talk about it, but they don't heal through it. Healing through it without the liquor, without the weed, without the pills, without sexing on somebody else new. Just genuinely heal through it. A lot of people don't do that. So when you run into somebody that is actually willing to do that work, don't tell them how long they should talk about it or that they should be over it. The best assistance that you can give them is to just not say anything. Honestly. Because the fact that they're even talking about it means that they are allowing God to work them through it. God worked me through everything that happened to me once I started to talk about it and once I started to write it down. I wrote a whole book. But that was my healing process. God walked me through those things when I started to let it out. Not when someone on the outside told me I should be over it. That didn't help me at all. That actually stifled me. When I started to let it out, when I started to listen to God's voice, that's how I actually was able to turn back around and help other people. You might have good intentions, but you got to step back and look at it and see, is it God's intentions or are they just my good intentions? Because your good intentions are not going to affect somebody the way that God's intentions would. And if it didn't come from God, it doesn't stand on solid ground. Y'all have a good night. I would also like to add that healing is a journey, not a destination. The healing journey never ends until you make it to heaven. That's when your healing journey ends. Because while we're on earth, everything that we've healed through is going to continue to pop up. Spiritual warfare does not stop just because you've allowed God to heal you. Spiritual warfare gets stronger when you allow God to heal you. But the closer you get to God, the deeper you get into your word, the easier it is for you to deal with those things as they pop up. If the devil continues to throw the same things at you, he's going to have to start coming stronger because You know how to deal with it now. I have flashbacks. Certain words remind me of certain things, certain smells, certain situations. The way that certain people try to talk to me, the way that certain people try to treat me reminds me a lot of what I've been through. But I don't react the way that I used to react. I'm not a victim anymore. The devil tries to come at me different ways now because he realizes that it's not as easy as it used to be to get me to go into a depression, to get me to doubt myself, to get me to doubt God. It's not as easy as it used to be. So he tries even harder. But when you've gone through the level of abuse that somebody like me has gone through, if you have to get hit harder than you already were hit, baby, some people wouldn't even be able to deal with it. Some people would just take themselves out if they had to deal with the type of mental torment that people like me deal with every single day. So just be glad that it wasn't you, but stop judging the people that it was.